parking lot.
Good afternoon, everyone. I will now call to order the Egg Harbor City Council study session of Thursday, June 29th, 2023. The time is 3:04 p.m. and I will do a roll call. Councilmember Wood.
Here.
Councilmember Stursett is excused. Councilmember Rodenberg.
Here.
Councilmember Likens is on her way. I'll acknowledge her when she arrives. Councilmember Henderson.
Here.
Councilmember Martin.
Here.
And Councilmember Berger.
Here.
Great. We have one change to the agenda today. We are moving item 5, the May 2023 budget report, up to number 1. So Dave and Corinne are here, and in a moment, I'll turn it over to them. I want to remind the public, there's no public comment at study sessions, but if you have questions, you can talk to us after or email us after, and we can answer any questions that you have. And then I will turn it over quickly to Katrina for a few updates, our city administrator, Katrina Knudsen.
Thank you, Mayor. Good afternoon, council. A couple of quick updates. I'm hoping it will not take longer than 5 minutes. You know, we have a packed agenda today. There's 4 things I just want to either update you, well, yes, update you on, and 3 I want to update you on, 1 that we're seeking feedback from you. The first wanted to let you know that we will be placing a BMS board outside of the right of way at Scanty Park, indicating that fireworks are prohibited in the city.
Oh,
Great.
And so I want to thank the Jeffs for that. There are federal regulations again that prevent us from utilizing those within the right of way unless it's for traffic or safety purposes. But again, we do know how dry it is, and specifically with the fire last week, we want to be able to have at least 1 BMS board indicating that. So thank you on that. The 38th Avenue property that we heard public testimony on, the Baptist church that is selling that, I was able to talk with their real estate agent again. Yesterday, they met with the Baptist church. There are 5 offers on the property and the price is escalating. I did ask if there was any willingness for them to close later to work with potentially the city and the Gig Harbor Land Conservation group that Councilmember Denson is on, and she said she didn't think so. They would like to close sooner. There are cash offers, and so she said she would call me back if there was any willingness to try to work through the Land Conservation Fund, and she never called back. So unfortunately, I wanted to let you know that we tried and we reached out, and it sounds like that is a non-starter, but we did what we could on that. The third item is work sessions. Heard a lot of input from council members recently about the amount of topics that are coming on work sessions and that it feels a little bit rushed. And so we wanted to throw out an option of having work sessions every Thursday. To just throw this out there for you all to think about your schedules. That would allow us to not have items wait a long time, which right now we're bumping out scheduling in August already for work sessions. I know that would be an additional 2 hours of your schedule that you would be with us. However, we think that there's enough city business going forward, our commitment to informing the council on many things and collaborating, that it could be a benefit to have an additional 2 work sessions per month. If there were not enough items to be heard on those off sessions, we would cancel them. But wanted to offer that that's something that we would be willing to do. Additionally, we would like the council to consider having a 15-minute portion of your work sessions where council can give comments to each other, kind of like a council update if you've gone to certain meetings. That's very typical at other cities where, hey, you know, I was at a restaurant and I heard this, and council, I wanted you to consider that. That's kind of a way on the record that you can share information. And so wanted to throw that out, that would be another benefit to having that other meeting for additional time. And then lastly, we've been having people that have wanted to present to council come to work sessions. And what we're going to do now, for instance, I will just as an example, it was the most recent one, the History Museum director came to present a proposal to council. Those are things that would be more better served to be presented at a Monday meeting as a proposal. And then if council would like staff to, based on what the recommendation or the request is, then council could then direct staff to look into that further. by having them come to council meetings, it kind of detracts from the purpose of the council meeting, which is for staff and council to work together on items. So in the future, when people request to present to council, we're going to direct them to a council meeting first. And then if council would like to put it on a work session, if there's enough of you that agree that that is a priority for us to work on, then council can direct us at the council meeting to bring that to a work session. Noting that everything that is a new request does take staff time, we want to be able to monitor that and only work on what there is council support for doing.
And what is the time that presenters will have during council meeting for their presentation?
It's usually 10 to 15 minutes.
So we'll save that time.
Yeah.
Okay,
It'll just be easier also to keep track with the timer on the screen so that, because sometimes presenters will go 20, 25, and if I'm not looking at my clock, then I feel really rude interrupting them, but if there's a timer and they know, like, and they can kind of check the countdown, it's a little bit easier, and then there still leaves time for questions from council to the presenter after their presentation.
Yeah.
So it still will allow that same dialogue to happen, but it'll just be in a more formal setting and not take up the work session time.
And there's nothing that staff, because right now, if they come to you at a work session, that takes staff time for us to coordinate getting that here. Whereas if we say you can present on a Monday night council meeting, that's very little staff time, especially if the majority of council does not want to go forward with what that proposal was.
yeah, no, I think it's a great idea. Just want to make sure they have time.
I would like to recognize quickly that Councilmember Likens has arrived.
And Councilmember Rodenberg is next.
Yes, I have no problem with more meetings. But this council, I think, already has more meetings than any other council. And more meetings is great. So my question is, are we getting more work done than any other council? It seems like we're pretty efficient. And I think we spend our time well, but we're meeting so much. To me, that means we're getting a lot of work done. Is that true?
We believe that we're getting a lot of work done. One thing that we could do is try this new presentation format where we're asking them to come to Monday nights and see if that can cut down on the available time prior to adding an additional meeting, an additional work session. But we do have a lot of capital projects right now and a lot of planning projects, quite frankly, that the council has directed us to work on. So there is a lot of collaboration that needs to happen. But we could try this elimination of presentations and see if that gives us adequate time prior to adding an additional meeting.
Okay, thank you.
I am in favor of moving those presentations to the council meeting. I'm wondering if we would limit the number of presentations at a council meeting.
Yeah. We would stagger them, no more than 2.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And on the adding the study session, I'm okay time wise, but I am concerned about our two working council members, and I want them to be able to provide their input. Maybe not in a public session to you guys as to whether or not they can add that weekly commitment or not.
And just a reminder, as long as we have a quorum of council, we can have a study session. You're actually not even required to attend study sessions. You could never come to one and it would not be a problem. You are required to attend Monday night meetings, but you're not even required to be here on Thursdays. It's so great that we have a council that actually wants to be here for every meeting. I love that because you don't have to be. And in the past, we've had councils that haven't had people there on study sessions. And so but I know how much you all want to be here. So yes, if you want to provide feedback to us after, if that doesn't work with your schedule and maybe how we can still get your input after the fact.
Yeah, because I was
yeah.
gonna say, I understand they don't have to be here, but this is when we get so
Yes.
much. Yeah, we don't have to be here, but this is when we do so much discussion
Yeah,
and that kind of thing. I think it would be really hard if half of us decided we didn't want to come anymore.
I just wanted to make it
Yeah.
clear that you guys, I didn't want you to feel badly if you couldn't come. That was my point in saying the
Yeah.
part about the Thursday meetings. Roger.
Um,
Councilor Henderson,
That's-
sorry. I got-
Comment
yeah,
right here.
You got your name wrong there for a couple of years.
I do like the idea of moving presentations back to the city council. It gives a lot more people an opportunity to see it, hear it. Secondly, an additional Thursday meeting, actually, I think is a good idea for a couple of ones. Number one, we have a lot of stuff on the books right now that we need to discuss regardless of people giving presentations, adding new stuff. So we have to get through it. if we have more meetings, then instead of, if you miss one right now, you're missing 2 weeks. If there's more meetings and you can maybe not meet that one, but you kind of do, it might actually present more opportunities for people to fit it into their schedule. It's not a mandatory thing, you're correct. But that way, if you miss one, you're not missing 2 weeks or something. So I'd like us to try the every week and then see how it works. And like you said, if there's not enough to put on the schedule, we just cancel it. It's easy enough to do and we're all flexible. So I think I'd like to see us try that. I think it would be very well worth it.
Councilor Wu?
Yes, I'm in favor of both those things, and now I'm switching back to Katrina's first topic of fireworks. And I have heard a rumor, don't know how true it is, that folks have been directed, if they have fireworks complaints, to go and post them online. And not to call the police. And I need to know if that's, I mean, this is dry weather, and if there are fireworks going off, so.
There's a website you can go
Yeah,
to
that's
for
right.
complaints that Chief Down mentioned at the chamber forum this morning. That's where they would like people to put their complaints in, or you call the non-emergency police line.
So
Those are the two-
non-emergency,
Non-emergency, not 911 unless someone is on fire or a house is on fire. But so it's non-emergency, and I can't remember the website, but I can get it, the web address to
Yeah,
put in a complaint.
that was not
So
actually.
this is, we are operating differently than Pierce County or other cities, and so the reason that we're doing that is because our police chief and our police want to be able to provide the one-on-one service that we provide all of our residents, and so other Pierce County, for instance, put out the online form
Right.
for Southtown 911. We are not doing that because we want the calls to go through dispatch so that we can respond to the calls.
Can you
So
send
is
us
that-
that information?
It's in here.
Chief said something,
but we'll confirm.
So we are not asking people to go to that online portal. That is what Pierce County is doing. That is not what we're requesting that folks do.
Okay.
So we will ensure that the police puts out how they want citizens to put.
Okay, and remembering that probably the non-emergency line is not operating after 10 o'clock at night.
So people, if there's no one that's answering, the chief
We'll
will put
confirm with
something
Chief
out,
UC,
but that is
yeah.
absolutely not true.
Yeah.
It is true that we have broken off from Pierce County because we want to provide more customer service than what Pierce County is doing. And so we don't want our residents to have to log on to a portal and put something in. We want them to call, but we'll communicate out what that number is.
Thank you so much.
Okay, so it sounds like we need to take some more feedback on the Thursdays, so I will, if you can just send me your feedback on that. Then I can let you all know what that is. I know we have a big agenda. The last thing is a really good news thing. And we have a little, not gift for you, because we gave one to every staff member, but we wanted to make sure that we gave one to you as well. The city's internal mission statement was changed in 2018. I think we've talked about this from a statement to paragraphs. And in the employee survey, we heard from employees that they didn't know what the mission statement is, so they didn't know if their work was helping to achieve that or not. And so we've gone through that process, staff voted, and we unveiled that to staff on Tuesday at a staff meeting. And in keeping with that, as well as our environmental goals and hydration goals for a warm summer, each staff member received a water bottle with our logo and the new mission statement on it.
Oh, nice. So
So our new mission statement is dedicated to our community through teamwork, public service, safety, and respect. So you will all have a water bottle now. Except that. And, thank you here. You're welcome.
Were the two questions remaining about the third case? Okay. You
I
wanna
was
email
just
it?
gonna provide, I'm emailing Katrina right now.
Sounds great. Okay, thank you so much for that. And then quickly, I want to turn it over to Councilmember Barber. She has a message for us from someone.
I was just at the farmer's market, working in the comp plan, the city booth with Robin and company. And Gonzo's wife came over to talk to us and wanted me to pass on her extreme appreciation to city leadership, and especially to Katrina and to Tracy, for how much love they are feeling from the city. And she talked to us probably for about 10 minutes. It was a wonderful conversation. And they are so appreciative. She mentioned several times about how Gonzo feels so loved by the staff and especially by the new leadership. And she wanted to make sure that we knew that it was felt by them and in the community. So she asked me to, I said, I have a meeting at 3, and she said, please pass this message on. So I am the messenger with very good news. And thank you to Katrina and Tracy, especially for that.
Thank you for sharing that. They have been in our hearts. Thank you so much. Okay, I think we are ready to go to our business item number 1, our May 2023 budget report. And we have our finance director, Dave Rodenbach, and our senior accountant, Corinne, and I don't have your last name. Jackson, Corinne Jackson.
Corinne Jackson.
Have you met, has council met Corinne yet?
So.
And so they'll be continuing our report today. Thanks.
We have 45 questions written out for you.
Yeah. And they're just for you, not for Dave.
Yeah.
And we're training Corinne to be my stand-in for budget and whatnot, so it's a great opportunity for her to be here, and we're really happy to be here. We felt neglected in these study sessions. So thank you for coming. Yeah. this is
Yeah,
what it is.
exactly.
I'll skip, in the interest of time, I'll skip what was sent out in the packet. What we sent you in the packet was a quick memo, which we're gonna get better with. The chart that you see in there, or the listing of funds, is what you see in the quarterly report. It looks familiar. The big difference is the ending balances do not tie to the bank accounts and the actual cash. That's a big lift for us, and we probably need another FTE to accomplish that monthly. Okay, and so if you need that, we can struggle to get there, but my thought is it's very reasonable what you're wanting. You want to see where the city is financially every month. And I will too. And so we threw together some things with that in mind. Please, if there's something you have questions about or would want to see in this regularly, let me know. I talked to Councilmember Henderson yesterday, and he mentioned a couple things. And so we will grow this thing into something you want it to be. And how we approach the quarterly is we give you a quick overview of everything. Every time we do sales tax, because it's 51+% of the general fund revenues every year. And where sales tax goes is where we go. So that's going to be the first thing you always kind of see. And then whatever piques our interest, like this year, development fees are piquing our interest. A couple of years ago, it was Transportation Benefit District. You know, it was new for us, and we wanted to see how it was going and where it was growing. For that, it used to be HBC. You know, how's this thing looking? So if there's something in vogue or whatever that you want to see, let us know, and we will put it in there. Okay, that said, I'm gonna bring up the first chart that I threw together here. Ooh, is it working? Oh, there we go. There we go. Good shot. Okay, what this is showing you is sales taxes and building permits, the two biggies. And I used this for a staff presentation earlier this week, you know, because there's a lot of rumors going around with the budget and all that kind of thing. And so as you can see, just on sales tax and building permits, we're tracking to 3,081,000 deficit. And this is at the end of 24. So we're tracking out, we're only 21% through the biennium. And so if we go at the same pace we're on right now, which by the way, we're not, we'd be at 3,081,000. It's the picture for sales taxes has actually gotten worse. I just got the June distribution 2 days ago, and I'll show you that in a little bit. And that's a little worse. But this is kind of showing you how we sleep at night and why we're not coming and having special meetings, you know, because the sky is falling and whatnot. So we have that 3,081,000. If you go to the highlighted block right there, let's see, my thing is not working very well here. There, that 3,081,402. That's total general fund revenue. We're tracking to that much of a deficit through May. Through May. I don't have the through June. We will have the through June in another month. The dust doesn't settle on June until probably second week of July. And we'll start doing some real estimating and crunching. And that's kind of what we base our mid-biennial review on, is the June numbers. Okay, so this is kind of a sneak preview. So we're 3.1 million almost in the hole, just in revenues. And then if you look at expenditures, we're actually 1.6 million to the good. That's the number right below that. So our projected deficit is 1.5 million through May. Now, let's see here.
That would be projected at the end of the biennium if things stayed as this.
Yeah.
That's,
Right. Now, if you go down to the beginning fund balance, actual budgeted, the 1,069,584, right down there.
Mhm.
Sorry, this thing just isn't
It's
working.
going slow.
Anyhow, beginning fund balance actual for 2023 came in 1,069,000 higher than we budgeted. Okay, so that shortens
So
our
essentially,
deficit.
we started the year off that much, with that much more money than we anticipated in the previous budget.
So it's unbudgeted money, I've heard it mentioned as a pot of gold by city managers and such, but it's a little bit of funding that we hadn't planned on. And then we have conservation future grants, and that's a conservative number. I'm thinking that number is gonna be more like pushing 1 million by the end of the period, but this is about what we've gotten right now, is about 500,000 for the Lions property, I believe, or the Shaw. And then, so we're right now running at about a $40,000 surplus.
I got a question.
Sure.
So sales tax, I think we can project, it's kind of linear, right? I mean,
Pretty much.
We don't have big
Pretty much.
swings. The expenditures, though, I would imagine our expenditures aren't necessarily a linear thing. They may be depending on projects that are all of a sudden coming. Did that 1.55 million take into account projects we expect to award in either the end of this year or the beginning of next year, some of our capital improvement projects?
This is
Okay.
general.
Yeah, the general fund projects.
All right.
The reason we have such savings, the way I do this estimating, I won't pick a certain department because I don't want to focus in on specific things, but let's say a department has 350, or no, the Civic Center, we have 2.5 million for HVAC. Spent 0 so far. We're budgeting that we're gonna spend that entire budget amount. That's in that number, that 1.5 million. If there's consulting fees or professional services, I hate these, professional services of 280,000 budgeted, we've spent 0 through May. We're still planning that we're gonna spend that full 280,000.
So there are some capital improvement projects in the general.
Well, these are professional services and they're not
No, I
capital.
got the Civic Center building.
Yeah, the Civic Center is the only one.
Okay, got it.
That's the only one. We have 4 million budgeted as transfer to the street fund. We're assuming that entire transfer is gonna go out. And other transfers. We did the exercise before this budget was approved of unburdening the general fund, so there was minimal transfers out of the general fund for capital. And I believe Jeff has a reallocation of funding based on what's going on right now also, because some of the other funds are depleted. And that brings up another thing, we focus on general. If council wants to focus on some other funds, also you may. One reason we leave utilities out is we study those ad nauseum through our rate consultant. And we kind of look at what he does and we're kind of in the ballpark, so we track right along with that. We feel we're pretty well covered with utilities in our estimating and such. And all the other funds live off of the general fund, unless they're capital like REIT, transportation impact fees, HBZ. They're just pots of cash that council uses for projects. And if they get dried up, we'll either not do a project or you'll reallocate like Jeff is showing later. Okay, so this is just general.
So one of the other important things that we're looking at is as development fees reduce, then we expect our impact fees to reduce, which then will have a reduction in available money to do capital projects for streets specifically. And so that's something that we are looking at and we will be bringing forward to council in the near future as we're getting more aligned with what the numbers say and what that projection looks like. Additionally, Jeff is doing, he and his team are working on, the utility rate study, and so that'll be coming forward to council. We'll get more accurate numbers for that as we move forward. But it is important to note that with the reduction in building fees, that has been something that the city has heavily relied on for many, many years. And so, we're looking at this, not knowing if it is if it's going to stay this low because of inflation or other items, or if this is going to be our trend moving forward with the policy for slow growth in Gig Harbor. And so if that's the case, then there's gonna be some fiscal discussions that we'll need to be having with the council moving forward so that we can sustain the staff that we have. Noting that the folks that are 100% relying on general fund, public safety, police, community development, very important things in our community. And so those discussions are forthcoming. But I very much appreciate Dave and Corinne and all the work that they're doing to help us illuminate the budget and bring it to you all in a way that we have not before, so that we can show you what's going on as time goes on, and we're not surprising you 6 months from now or whenever that is with something that we're requesting that you either modify the budget or take a separate action.
And so one last thing on the expenditures with this, we do include projected wages through the end of the year. And so like, for example, police officers, we're assuming the 4 new police officers are gonna be hired by August 1st. Now, I think that's a little, pardon, all four.
Okay.
All 4. And what I try to do with expenditures, which is pretty much common sense, I try to go worst case with expenditures and worst case with revenues. I doubt we're gonna get all 4 on board by August 1st, but we go with that to give us a little bit of room. We have 2 officers retiring in mid-July. We're assuming for them that we're probably not gonna have those positions filled till the end of the year. And so we're assuming a January 1st hire date for those. And as that changes, of course, we will adjust. Yes,
Do you factor in the step increases as well?
yes, I do.
Thank you.
And so we have about, Katrina was just mentioning the development fees and activity and such. There's like 3, 4, 5 positions we're holding right now, not freezing, but the assumption within this 1.5 million is that we're not gonna fill those for the rest of this year. And once we get some good numbers from June and we get into our July discussions, you'll hear more definitive data on positions we're gonna pull, leave idle or freeze or whatnot, ones we're gonna hire, and some we may defer, I don't know, till 25 in the next budget cycle. That's all based on good data when we have it. This is like, remember, this is a sneak preview.
And
Yes.
so, yeah.
I'm sorry.
Well, I heard Councilmember Henderson, he had his hand up a while back. Did you cover?
Yeah, well, are you gonna go through any of the other budget pots of money, like streets and capital, things like that, or just, are we talking general today?
This is just general today.
Okay,
Street operating is just fine. Street operating lives off of general, and as general goes, street operating goes. Street capital and all the capital project funds, no, we don't have the information on those yet.
okay, so I guess my general question is where does the maintenance money come for all of our facilities, like roads, streets, street lights, buildings,
General,
parks, out of general, okay, and so somewhere in this number, there's gotta be some pots for maintenance, future maintenance, or,
well, that's in the form of an operating transfer out of the general fund, and that is in there in its entirety.
all right,
If whatever the budget was, we're assuming the entire amount is gonna be spent.
all right, so we're at least covered on maintenance, or at least longer term maintenance.
Pretty much, other than not filling a few positions, all of the city's missions are intact
Okay,
as of now and in this assumption.
all right,
Okay, so nothing been cut except,
it's not like we're deferring maintenance on streets or roads or.
the entire 23-24 budget is being implemented as we speak and within this 1.5 million.
It's good.
Councilmember Martin,
Okay.
did you?
Yeah, just curious, I know that we had spoken about having planning, try to give us a forecast of what they potentially see coming about, and we know that they have conversations with different individuals, different companies. Do we have that data as of yet, or is that still being worked on to get a sense as we look way down the road, how are things gonna be progressing with permitting fees, et cetera?
Yeah, we have I've asked for a more in-depth look that we have not been able to capture from staff yet. We do know that the pipeline is drastically reduced from where it was 4 years ago. You can see all the houses and construction that has occurred. And so I've asked Carl to get more in-depth data on what permits those are, what inspections those would be. I do want to caveat what Dave said about holding staff. That is not necessarily across the board based on need. And so many staff are broken up into different pots of money. Whereas police officers are 100% general fund and that's how they're paid. Many people, take Jeff for instance, or other Jeff, they are split maybe 6, 7, 8 ways between various funds. And so when we look at a general fund projection like this, we're really looking at general fund related positions. As we've seen with the lack of permits that are coming in, those positions that we're currently holding, again, they're not frozen, eliminated, are in the community development department with inspection and community development assistant, because those permits aren't coming in, and so they had been vacant anyway, so it was a hold by attrition. We didn't lay anybody off in order to have that salary savings. We are holding off on the risk and safety manager that council approved as well. We're waiting to see what our full projection is for these first 6 months before we take on another staff member. The only position other than that that is going forward besides the police and are the public works positions, engineer, project manager, and PDS coordinator and engineering tech. And again, those are split amongst other funds that are not just general fund. The only exception to that is the Housing, Health and Human Services program manager that is being paid at least halfway by opioid settlement funds. And so that position was posted yesterday and we're currently recruiting for that. Other than that, we're holding off on positions, not wanting to over encumber ourselves before we know the complete picture of what is occurring.
Councilmember River?
She answered my question.
Oh, okay. Councilmember Barber?
Communications.
Oh, that one's going forward as well.
Oh,
Okay, good.
Yeah,
Councilmember-
communications,
One
we're
word
having,
from there.
we're having finalized discussions, just to put that out there. The position title is, has changed, and the job description has changed. We're finalizing that through Shannon before we formally notify council of what that is. But that will be moving forward.
I'm just curious on the strategic reserve fund. You know, I understand what that's for, but yet we include it in the general fund. I get that. Mine, kind of crazy. Mine, I always think of that as money we don't touch. It's kind of that savings that we need, but yet we include it in the total.
It's not in the general fund.
It's not.
No.
Okay, I'm just looking at your document. That helps me.
Yeah, it's separate. The sheet you got in your council packet,
Uh-huh.
that would show the balance that we had as of the end of May,
Okay,
okay?
and it's a separate account.
It's separate, it's not part of the general fund.
Perfect. Thank you.
And you would have to approve it because we didn't budget anything out of there. So council would have to approve it for us to get
No, I
it
think
back.
that's important for all of us.
Yes. Okay, on the screen, I'll try to be real quick. Stop me if I go too fast with it. I put this up just to show you the big picture of, you know, the budget, and you can see where we at in the 23-24 estimates. If hindsight for 2020, I mean, look at 21-22 actual, 23-24 budget is down. We probably would have budgeted lower, to be honest, because when we're doing the 23-24 budget, we're running off of 22 estimates, year-end estimates. And the estimates in the results in 22 didn't start going down until November, December. And we're going off of June numbers and we're doing our discussions and study sessions in October. And we're trending down a couple ticks. And we didn't know it was gonna be the beginning of a big trend and then June.
Don't feel bad. The state forecasts every quarter just for that reason, and they get, you know, kind of worst case scenario, moderate and best case scenario, just for the reasons you spoke about.
Yeah. And
Don't
so,
beat yourself up on that one.
so remember, we budgeted flat. But flat was based on where we thought they were gonna be, and so we're going down. But if you look at the number, the chart there, that doesn't look too horrible. We're not. Sky is falling, it's terrible, it's terrible. When it does get bad, we're gonna really have to, if it does, we're gonna have to sharpen our pencils and probably get into something. That's why that's there. Let's see, how do I reshare to get? Yeah, new share, there we go.
I think you have to stop sharing and then reshare.
Okay, resume share. How do I stop share?
Still should be that.
Oh, stop there, the little red one there. Okay, and then new share. So we go from that. To there. So what you see here is a monthly sales tax comparison. Not sure if I can make that bigger or not.
Yeah, you,
Down at the bottom, Dave, you can just.
Bottom right,
Slide.
take it to 500%. Oh, there you go, there.
How's that?
Look at you.
I tend to talk out loud when I'm thinking, I'm sorry. This is just showing you month to month, and what Councilmember Henderson asked is, are we linear, do we get the same amount every month? The average for the last 20 years through June, we're about 53% through sales tax. We have a couple big peak months, I think they're July, August, and probably December. Okay, you know, the ones you'd expect. This kind of shows you where we are, it shows you we're down compared to the orange, which is last year. And that's pretty much all it's showing us. You do see the June numbers in here, though. What I showed you before just had through May. And so I'm not sure if I put actual I didn't. Actual numbers here, for June. We're down about 160,000 cumulative 23 to 22 through June. 160 to 200,000, and we researched that this morning, and that is entirely due to construction or decreasing construction sales tax. Okay, so our retailing, actually, we're accommodations, which the tourism type stuff is out the ceiling as compared to last year. So all the stuff you're hearing about this, we're hitting 2017 pre-COVID levels at these festivals and whatnot. It's showing in those retail sales. Those are up. It's the construction. Construction is anywhere, I've measured construction in our go-go days where we've really been out the roof in development to our slow periods, and construction sales tax is anywhere from 13 to 23%, 25% of total sales tax in any year. And then this shows you, this next one here shows you the percentage of our month over month declines. Remember the January and February were negative 0.6%. Remember I said March went up. I don't know if I have that handy. March, oh, here it is, yeah. March went up 2.9%, then we're down 3.2, 9.2, and then June is down 11.2. Councilman?
Is there any lag here? Do you plot them as they come in, or?
There's a 2-month lag. The June number you see there actually represents April sales.
Okay.
Okay. So this is cash basis. This is when we get it in to the city.
That's good information.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is. So we could have already turned the corner.
Yeah.
I like to be positive. I'm gonna be positive out there.
We're all gonna think. positive.
Yeah. And then more sales tax. I'm gonna give you another chart here. And then I think we'll just open it for questions after this. And we've had a few of it. Okay, that's this one. Sales tax by month. Show you that. This is how I track everything. I've used this chart for 20 years and have 20 years of data on it, but if you look up top there, this is where all this is coming, and in the 23, it's not working, and it takes a while to get used to it. But you see, we're down 3.8% year over year, and that's through June. That's the cash basis through June. Okay.
Can I ask a question?
Sure,
Since you said you have how many years of data in there?
about 20.
Okay, have you, how common is this, I'll say,
What?
to be 3.8% down as of June? Have you seen that in others of the 20 years?
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
29.
2009? Yeah, I mean, that's what I was thinking, that's why I wanted to put it into some perspective.
29, we went down and we didn't totally recover. Well,
Great
So-
session.
yeah, the Great Recession, but other than that, we've always been like a rock star with sales taxes. You'll find with your peers.
To reinforce what you said about turning the corner already. If there's a 2-month lag, most of construction, which is a lot of that sales tax, is done during the summer. So purchasings have been done in June, May and June, and they haven't come in yet. So I think you're probably right.
I was hoping that too. I was thinking that the other day, but that might be where we are.
You were thinking like I think, or I would think, man,
Should I be serious?
you know.
It's kind of the last. Well, I think we've already shown the monthly, haven't we? This is, that's another monthly. Yeah, I'm pretty much done with my charts, my little slideshow here of stuff. Well, so I don't expect you to come up with stuff right now on what you want to see, but if you're in the shower tomorrow morning, in bed, whatever, I wish what about this, what about that, let us know. And we'll create it for you, and we want to give you helpful information that makes you.
I hope you vet that, those questions, Lars, you know, I mean, if one particular person has something, you shouldn't go to a lot of work. You know, spend your time answering a small question that might be obvious to everyone else. So I hope you vet your responses, or they maybe should
Dave
filter
meets
through.
with me every week, and so we go over that and kind of talk it through just to ensure that we're getting the council collective.
I think this was really helpful.
But it's a good point.
Yeah,
Your questions are good. We get excited. Corinne brought me something on the construction. And I said, just put it together. I don't know what to tell you. We follow the information. We suspect it's gonna come out like this. And she was excited. Look, it's construction. So we sort of get a little kick out of this too. And it's fun to see where we're going. And you hate to scratch your head and not know.
Yeah.
Because literally that'll keep you up at night, because I don't wanna put out bad information and then we make poor decisions. And it's, oh gosh, we should see this or should see that. And so your questions are well taken and helpful to us.
Thank you, Dave.
This is.
Thank
You're welcome.
Thank you. Thank you both so much
Thank you.
for your presentation. See, they're very nice.
I told her that too.
yeah.
This time, you know.
Thank you so much for being here. Wait some seconds.
Yeah, I'm waiting for your list of questions.
Yeah.
She gets to talk next time.
They'll come in, the questions. will
Yeah.
come in.
key to the city cash box during.
No comment.
We're always really nice.
Right.
Come on, don't scare her.
I've actually been a little long time, so.
All right, thank you guys again.
Thank you all. It's been fun.
All right, I love that you're so excited about finances.
Actually, I'm not good with numbers, so I.
Apparently, you're a good thinker.
That's right. That's the one thing I can do.
Okay, well, moving on to our second item, proposed above ground fuel storage tanks. This will be our report from our director, Public Works Director Jeff Langhelm, and Jeff Olson is here as well.
I'm just gonna hand it off to Jeff, because he's been doing a lot of work, so.
Handing it over to Jeff Olson.
Thank you.
Thank you both for being here.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor and Council, for this opportunity to present our proposal for above ground tanks here at the shop. You see the two- Very tall. So here's our presentation on that. What really kind of started this whole thought and process is for about 5 or 6 years now, we've been really struggling with some issues with the shop, mainly our diesel trucks and stuff just having mechanical issues, right? We'd be out snow plowing and your truck would just start malfunctioning. We bring it in, it was the fuel filters. And that started kind of us keying in on some issues that we were seeing that could be from the fuel workers out there retail, right? So real quick history on this, where we kind of have been, where we want to go here. So back in the late eighties, early nineties, when our existing shop facility was built, they actually installed underground fuel tanks there at the shop. And so for years there, we utilized those. They were removed in about 1998, from the best that I can tell, because there was a concern with them being underground, leaking, contamination, so we pulled them up out of the ground. And at that point in time, we went to Conan Fuel and we started using them. They were over off of Burn Drive there. And we utilized him for years we never had any problems. We always got good fuel from him. Our vehicles always ran great. And it really wasn't an issue there. And the nice thing about that too was we also had an emergency backup plan, right? Where if there was something that happened, we would have taken one of our portable trailer generators over there. We'd be able to plug in him there and have an agreement with Dan that he would just sell fuel to the city. We'd be able to power it up and our operations continue there. So currently, right now, Conan Fuel went out of business, shut down in about 2018. So that we transitioned over to buying fuel retail, right? So we just go amongst the gas stations in the area. And we use what is called the WEX cards, the Washington Enterprise Exchange cards. And there's certain stations in this area that we can buy fuel from. But the one issue we run into with that is it's kind of limited. It's even limited in with just our operations. Most of the fuel stations in Gig Harbor are located in the south end of town, right? Nothing up in the north end. So we actually, in an emergency situation, that could be an issue for us. Emergency plan right now, what we have is the mayor actually has authority to be able to go to a gas station and say, hey, we are going to close you down. You only sell fuel to the city of Gig Harbor. One of the issues with that though, is we hope that they have backup generation, right? In that emergency situation, not all gas stations in the area have that. So it might be limited in where we can do that. And then the other issue with that is the problem we're having right now with the port fuel, right? So what gas station is that? Might be in the same boat where we're just not getting good fuel from them. So the other option we have is WashDOT has a maintenance facility up in Port Orchard, right off of Molnex Drive. And we have an agreement with them that we can go up there and buy fuel from them. They have an above ground tank also. And we have cards that we can go up there and purchase fuel from them. The issue with that from an operations standpoint is like we have there, it's about a 15-20 minute drive from our shop center up to there, right? And that's in a good situation. That's a highway. If there's an emergency like an earthquake or something, hopefully all the infrastructure is in good shape where we can get it done. So that's a big issue on that. So we've been working on this above ground, getting fuel or cost to install this up at the shop. So that top line you see there, the AGSD, that's an above ground storage tank. That would be a 3,500 gallon tank, one big tank with a compartment in the middle of it. So we'd have 1,500 gallons of diesel, 2,000 gallons of unleaded fuel on site. It would be a fuel management system that we'll talk about here as we go through this presentation and slides to come. That will actually allow, it's an accountability thing, right? Who can or get fuel and how much are they getting? And then a canopy, it'd be a cover over the tanks, but that canopy in addition to that would also cover our dumpster, which is a stormwater issue that we've always ran into. Our dumpster at the shop, our large one. Michael Boot over there, he always comes and talks to us, hey, you guys gotta get that dumpster covered, stormwater getting in there, runoff. We gotta do something about that. We just never really had a spot to do that. So as we were looking at getting these above ground tanks in, we thought, hey, maybe we combine the two, right? So when we talked to the contractor about it, we asked him, hey, when you think about this canopy, estimate us one with where we can get our large dumpster in there and get it under cover also. The other thing we added to the canopy that is not in this total cost here, but the structure for the canopy is there. We could add solar panels to the canopy too. So in the future, if we wanted to put those on there, it would be an option for us. The canopy itself is designed as though it can take that way. So that would be 325,099. The AIM system flow, these are all things we're going to talk about here as we go through this presentation also, but the AIM system, it's a device you put on each vehicle. It'd be $506 per vehicle. We have 31 vehicles in the city's fleet. So it'd be $15,686. And then Flow is a device that we would put on our off-road tanks, which we have 2 trucks in our fleet that meet in the bed of the truck. It's just a diesel tank to fuel our, like our side mower, our backhoes or equipment like that. We also use them to refuel our emergency generators, our well sites and stuff. So that Flow would actually be able to help us track that usage and where that fuel's going. And then with that Flow is a maintenance fee annually of $288. So we're looking at about $346, $813 in 2023 dollars. So, you know, that when we come back to you guys after this, if you guys would like us to proceed with this, we'll probably bump that number up a little bit just for inflation and, you know, a little cushion in case it's something we run into. So I say all that, that's a big number. Dave just got done talking about how we're in a deficit. I'm sure you guys are sitting over there thinking, why? Why are we gonna spend $350,000 on this? So one of the reasons is pricing, right? Right now, we are out there buying retail fuel, so it's costing us anywhere from $4.29 to $4.79 on our leaded fuel, and then the diesel's $4.85 to $5.59. We'd be purchasing at wholesale costs. So there is actually a savings. It's not a huge savings, but it's a much better quality product that we're actually getting right out of that. So one of the things we'll talk about also as we get through here is the R99 diesel. That's something that actually really excites us about the potential for the future. A product that's coming online, it's kind of cutting edge. Honestly, right now, you don't hear a lot about it. When I first heard about it, I was like, what's R99? So it's pretty awesome.
I have to look it up.
Yeah,
I know what it's about.
yeah. So anyways, right now, these numbers are as of March 2023, it's $7.99 a gallon, right? Which is a lot compared to us what we're buying for diesel right now, $4.85 to $5.59. I have it purchased from Portland there, talking with the supplier. She's trying to work on getting more people in the area that wants to use R99 diesel. It's just, once you know what it is, I don't know why you wouldn't use it,
Can
honestly.
you explain what it is?
Yeah, what is it?
It's 100% renewable fuel. Is what it is. Yeah, I have some
Really?
slides.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, it's from French.
Some of it, yeah, you know, but anyway, so if she can get more people up here that want to use it, that would drop the price. She could source it from Portland, and it would drop the cost per gallon for the R99 diesel. So this slide here kind of shows you that slide on the left is just clean diesel fuel. That one to the right there is actually a sample draw we took out of one of our dump trucks. So up on the top layer there, that is the diesel. The bottom there is water and just the sludge we're getting out of the tank. And that's kind of what I was referring to earlier, when we're literally just replacing fuel tanks on the trucks because it's contaminating them so bad. So, and it's been a huge maintenance cost to us. And then just the cost of having that piece of equipment down, if it's our side mower or if it's our sweeper, which we've had to send our sweeper, which is only 3 years old, out and have them completely remove the fuel system if we need to put a new tank in. We don't have a sweeper for 2-3 weeks while they're doing that, right? And there's not many out there you can rent. Our side mower, we're lucky that we're actually able to rent one for that, so we keep our operation moving. But the other thing about it is just staff time, right? When we're out there fueling at these retail stations, when we're at Conan's, they have what they call a high-speed fuel pump. So we can pull up there, we can use that and fill a 100-gallon tank in 15 minutes or sooner. Right now with these existing stations, it's standard flow. We're spending up to an hour there with a 5-yard or a Vector truck to refuel that piece of equipment. So it's an extensive amount of time that we're sitting there, or our staff's there refueling that truck. And that's a normal operation. Think about that in a snow event. You know, when we're having to go back there and refuel that truck's out of the fight, removing snow for up to an hour, which is a huge deal to our operations. And then the safety risk and the fueling. These stations are just not made for commercial vehicles like our Vector truck or our snowplow, big 5-yard dump truck to come in and maneuver around real easily, right? When you're coming into those pumps with a snowplow that's usually up, your sight is already hindered. So coming in there, other people walking around, it's a safety and risk issue too. So another big one is just emergency preparedness. I've kind of talked about it a little bit before, but just having the tanks on the side would just make our operations in an emergency situation way easier. Some of that would be just when we come in with our five-yard trucks full of, say, snow removal, we'll show back up, we'll refill them with salt or sand or whatever we're using. While they're there, they could just move right over and refill the truck and go. Right now, we refill with salt and sand. They have to drive from our operations center down usually to the Fred Meyer and refuel. So that's just more downtime that they have. This system, like I think I mentioned earlier, will be connected to our on-site backup generators that are existing there at the shop. So we'll be able to operate 24/7 in an emergency. And like I said, quicker refueling times, less downtime, that the equipment is not out there working. And then it also gives us a source to refuel our emergency generators, like at our well sites, right? So we'll have that fuel source right there on site. Those off-road tanks I talked about earlier, they can fill them up, take them straight to the well sites and refuel those generators and keep them going. So that would be a huge benefit to our operations. Accountability. The fuel management system that we're going to talk about here in just a minute, I think is right after this slide. It has 3 levels of authorization. When we go with our WEX cards right now, we slide it in like you do your credit card. It has a PIN number it asks you for and the odometer of the truck. And, you know, anybody, like if someone were to break into the shop and get a hold of one of those cards, or even a vehicle here, and grab one of those cards, they could go up to Fred Meyer and refuel the vehicle pretty easily. I'm sure they can figure out what the PIN is. And the odometer, honestly, that's just kind of a tracking thing. I don't really know why we put that in there. But and the other cool thing about it is everybody has a new access card up here that we're deploying here at the Civic Center. That same access card will be used as one of the levels of authorization for this new unit. And then the AIM, which we're going to talk about here in just a minute, provides secure fueling, because if that's not on the vehicle, the pump won't dispense. But what's pretty awesome about it too is that AIM is constantly downloading information from the vehicle, and when you go and refuel, it uploads it. So we will get that information. It has onboard diagnostics already. So that is the actual unit, the FM Live that we would come to. You'd have your access card. You would get close to it. It's like a proxy, just like we have. But then they also have what they call a pro key. So each vehicle would have a pro key, and they would have to go up to this device. They'd have to have that. And out there, they would acknowledge that. And then with the AIM, which we're going to talk about here in a minute, it interacts. So while it's there, the AIM actually is downloading this device right here. So this is the actual AIM device, and what it is it actually connects to the OBD2 port on each vehicle, and then there's wires that go down, and it actually goes, if you're on the left-hand side there, that picture where you dispense your fuel in, there's actually a device that goes over that. So that when you show up, if someone were to show up and try and put that fuel dispenser in a normal vehicle, that it doesn't sense that AIM device, it won't dispense the fuel. So it's a good accountability thing. Item, but at the same time, like I said, onboard diagnostics, while you're sitting there refueling, it will send if there's any engine codes or, trouble codes, it'll download those, it'll hit the web, and our mechanic will be able to get those and see what they are.
So it'll also read out how many miles have been driven in the car. So
How many hard braking counts there are, how fast how many times there was rapid acceleration, it's keeping track of all that, engine hours.
So this is for both the diesel and the ASD can have a diesel side and a gasoline side.
Yep,
as well?
yep.
Okay.
So we'll have 2 dispensaries there.
Okay,
One will be just full unleaded, and then the diesel dispenser will have a high and low flow.
okay. And this will be for the police department cars too?
Every single
All
vehicle.
City vehicles. Okay, that's good.
It's supposed to be going towards electric.
Well,
We are, and we'll talk about it here in a
Yeah,
minute.
let's let them
For
finish.
our unleaded vehicles, we are working towards electric or hybrid, but the R99 diesel, I think, is something we'll talk about here in just a minute, is a good option too, for our commercial vehicles.
And we'll always have the need for unleaded diesel in the foreseeable future. Not everything we have will be, we're not gonna have sidewalks, we're not gonna have dump trucks. Right now, there will be electric for in the foreseeable future.
So that FM Live unit, what's awesome about it, it is web-based, cloud hosted, so all that information is constantly downloading and we're seeing it real time. What's nice about that is we'll always know what level fuel's in the tank. That information will actually go to our fuel supplier, so once it hits like 25% or whatever level we decide, it'll auto queue them, they'll put us on the queue to come back out and refuel that tank for us. So it's not something we have to sit there and monitor daily or something. But all the information we're just getting from it is pretty huge. And we'll be able to get, the mechanic will be able to get that right from his computer. So this is a quick thing on the flow. It connects to that pump on the left-hand side, that's an off-road fuel tank, diesel fuel tank, and whoever has this on their truck will have to have a login to like an iPhone or an iPad, which all of our staff are getting iPads there in operations. And they would have to have a login and know the PIN to actually activate it. Right now, we have nothing. Someone could just walk up to that tank, turn it on and start pumping diesel fuel. So there's nothing that stops that from happening. So the one thing I like to say too, flow and aim, there are things we can always add at any point in time, right? Like if you guys want to proceed with doing this above ground tank, we can do that and bring aim or flow in at any point in time. It's nothing we have to do immediately. So R99 diesel is renewable. What is R99? We'll talk about that here in a minute. Who's using R99? Pinlight's been using it for about 5 years now. And they're actually the ones, if you've seen them driving around in their trucks, they have a big sticker on the side of it. I think it says we're environmentally friendly or something like that, or asking why. So that's actually brand Crosslight. And when we were looking at doing these things originally and just the problems we're having with fuel, like, man, we should probably contact them and see what that's all about. He told us. So it was where we learned about it. It's pretty awesome. The benefits of R99, unlike regular diesel, which is petroleum based, what they're seeing is the emission side of it. A lot of these new diesel vehicles have the DEF fuel you have to put in there, and then the DPF, which is the diesel particulate filter, which means that vehicle has to go into a regen state where it heats up and burns off that carbon that's built up in that filter. What they're finding with the R99 diesel, it's not regenning because it's not building the carbon. So it's pretty awesome.
Also, the carbon output is a lot less than petroleum diesel. It's even less than what's called biodiesel.
Yep.
Biodiesel.
Yep, that's the slide right here. So the R99 is the one there on the left, fossil fuel right in the middle, biodiesel on the right. And like it says right there, R99, 75% fewer greenhouse gas emissions is what it produces. When you're actually next to Pinlight's truck, it just smells odd. It does somewhat smell like French fries, which is kind of interesting. Yeah, 100% sustainable, which is awesome. It's completely renewable. The cetane rating on it is a 70+, which is a big number. And think of cetane like octane with unleaded fuel, right? The higher that number, the better combustion, the more energy it's able to produce, right? So it's a huge benefit to using R99 diesel. And this is just a quick slide of basically what is it, how it's produced. So they use waste oils, vegetables, residual fats from food manufacturing and industrial processes. They actually collect that, they bring it in, and they run it through a process to where they get it to a renewable diesel. And it is actually diesel fuel, right? And it's R99 because of the federal renewable fuel standard requires 1% of it to be petroleum. So I don't know if that's the gas companies got involved in that or what,
Yeah.
but it literally could be 100% just based off of those waste vegetable oils and stuff. And our vehicles wouldn't even know the difference. What's pretty awesome about it is if we decide to go with this, once we do, there's nothing we have to do with our existing trucks or diesel vehicles. We just start filling them with R99. We don't have to drain the old diesel out or anything. The vehicle doesn't know the difference.
And that's why it's called a drop-in diesel.
Yeah.
Fill up just like any other.
That's great. So this is a quick map on just kind of where we're thinking of putting it. That little blue L there would be where we were looking at installing it, where we could come in, easy operations for all staff, including police, to be able to go in there, get into our facility, refuel, and easy exit.
Can you refill more than one vehicle at a time?
So with unleaded, we're only gonna have one dispenser on that pump. We could add more in the future. The FM Live, you could add up to 8 fuel hoses to it if we needed it. Don't know that we'll get there, but you know, if we grew, it could grow with us too. That's just, I wanted to kind of give you an idea quick of what the canopy made it look like. I asked our vendor, like, hey, could you do like a model of what ours would look like? And I never could get it out of him, but he eventually sent me this, so I thought I'd just kind of an idea of kind of a canopies that and what that might look like. And then I just wanted to, last slide here, as far as items, this is what the tank would be, above ground tank. So it is a double wall, 110% containment, right? So if anything happened to the inside, there's a second wall that would contain all that. It's actually filled with foam too for fire rating. So if there happened to be a fire that happened around the tank, there wouldn't be any big hazard with that. It's UL listed. And everything will come off of that. It would just be one tank there in the shop. So again, just in, why do we want to do this? Emergency preparedness, safety, security, accountability are the huge. And then honestly, the ability to go to R99 diesel. Right now, it's not out there for sale in the retail market, but in the wholesale market it is. We'll be able to transition to that. I'm sure whose hands up.
I'm keeping track. Councilmember, what keyword first?
Thank you. Well, I do wish that I had seen this presentation like yesterday,
Yeah,
so I could have researched and done a little, and been more educated on what this is. So this all sounds really good, but there must be somebody out there who thinks there's something negative about this.
with R99.
Yeah,
I haven't seen it, and just talking with Tim Lightoff, because I was really curious, the worst thing that they've seen so far is when they initially transitioned over to it, they had to replace their fuel filters on their truck a couple times, just because the regular diesel that had built up some sediment or whatever in the tank, and after they replaced the fuel filters a couple times, it had zero issues with it.
how many specific vehicles do we know that would be using R99?
At the shop, we have about 10 diesel vehicles that go on the road, but like Jeff said, our backup generators are diesel, they'd be switching over to R99. Our side motors diesel, our sweeper, and then our backhoes, our skid steers, all those use diesel.
So those are the things that will never go electric, right?
Yeah.
Well, I won't say never, but not in the foreseeable future.
Okay,
And that's the one nice thing about this, it's the environmental benefit we get out of it. There are dump trucks or commercial vehicles out there that are electric right now, and we could purchase one. The problem with that though, long term, is in a snow event. It'd be great for that moment in time, but getting them back and then they're down out of the fight for 5-6 hours while they recharge, right? So that would be the issue I see there, where R99 kind of, we get that environmental benefit and allows that time for the electric side to kind of catch up maybe on the commercial vehicles.
and this has been going on R99, it's not new, it's been around for how long?
I don't know exactly how long it's been around. It is kind of cutting edge where, they started out with biodiesel, but the problem with that is they take like corn and they try and intermix it with
Yeah.
diesel, and it just never really worked. There's a lot of issues with it.
Yeah,
Where this is an actual fuel. And so it's, like I said, it is kind of cutting edge in that it's not readily available everywhere right now, but it's going to be. I see it definitely as the future.
And Councilor Wood, for your comment about, you wish you would have had this information earlier, we're presenting this now for future discussion at mid-annual budget then. So it's nothing we're looking for decisions on now. We're trying to take input, look for interest, and then.
can you
see
send
what-
us this presentation?
Yeah,
Yeah,
Jeff's gonna prepare
We'll
that.
give it to Josh where he can
Thank
just
you.
push it out to you guys
Thank
for
you.
sure.
Okay, Councilmember Barber.
Yes, I'm really intrigued by this. It's very exciting on a number of levels. One of the things, because we did just hear from Dave and his team about finances, but to me, one of the real selling points when you come back to us and want to spend the money is how much time you will save.
Mm.
Because time is money. And so I'm hoping that you can calculate for us approximately, obviously not, but maybe the team can keep track between now and when you come back. We spent 3 hours a week driving to get fuel or whatever, and we won't have to pay that. We won't have that time anymore.
So when I initially presented this to Katrina and Jeff, I had a little spreadsheet that I did up, and I actually tried to calculate that. And cost of labor was in 2022 was about $16,280 we're spending on someone just standing there refueling a vehicle. So how each, that was using how much fuel we, you know, average, how much time it takes to fuel a vehicle. So that's kind of how I derive that number.
I think some of those things and the safety issues, plus then you look at the dirty fuel issue and those, I mean, just compiling all of those safety, quality, time, those issues. I think this is really exciting.
And remember, Dave gave us updates on general fund. That cost would be split across the three
The
utilities.
three utilities, yeah. I'm really excited about this.
And we did, we talked to Dave too and asked him, does he believe the funds could support this? And he said, yeah, he believes even moving forward, we can support it.
Great job, you guys. Great job.
Thank you. Councilmember Likens.
Yeah, thank you. Just to expand on that, I think this is really exciting as well, especially the environmental part, and especially since it's waste products, not something they're growing to make into
Yeah.
fuel kind of thing. I think it's great. I would be interested if, especially if PennDOT's been using it for what you said,
Penlight.
or PennLight, sorry, for 5 years, if you could look at maybe just some general estimates on what the maintenance costs of the vehicles, because I know you said you were having to replace some fuel tanks and filters, et cetera. If, in their experience, it sounds like maybe at first, as things kind of get worked out.
Yeah.
But in their experience in the long run, you know, is there a potential savings there? 'Cause-
There it is, and that goes back to that DPF that I was talking about in the region. They were having horrible times with their diesel vehicles because they took such high idle times.
Yeah,
Where with the R99, it's not producing that carbon where you have to go back into regen so much. So there's been a huge, I'm sure there's been a good savings there.
right, that's a lot of words for me to digest. I'm nodding in agreement because I trust your expertise.
Councilmember Martin.
Yeah, a couple of things. One, thanks for the presentation.
Yeah.
Great. So I think to some of the points that have been discussed, there's a lot of things that can be used for cost reduction, whether it's fuel filters, your time, and it'd be interesting to see what that would bring that almost 350,000 down to.
Yeah.
Secondly, I'm wondering is, so that would be outright purchase of the tank. So the R99 is a separate thing, saying we can use that fuel, which is lovely right now. Or we can buy cleaner diesel fuel right now and not have that issue. Okay, so it's two separate things. Curious about, have we talked to what does the fire department do? For their
You're asking that. They are not using R99, but they have above ground tanks and this FM live system that we are presenting to you guys right now. Penlight has the same thing. Legacy Communications, which is just down the street from us, they have the same thing. And that's something that I think is important too, you know, just a level of professionalism. When we are not at a retail fuel station and people driving by, go, what are these guys doing there? We're doing that fueling like the fire department, you know, our police will be at our station or at our facility refueling. Which honestly, the other thing I like having them there for security purposes. If they're coming in and out all the time, that just makes our facility a lot safer.
So that would be, so question of, so for lease versus purchase for the tanks and the equipment.
Yeah,
See what-
I
I don't
haven't
know
seen a
what the
lease on it, but
Okay.
the purchase, I've looked at several different types of things. When I initially started this, there was looking at what they call fuel cubes. They were just 1,000 gallons each. And it just, with the environment, and really, if we're gonna do this right, this is what we needed to go to. So that's kind of where we landed.
Now, where is the fire department fueling? They probably don't want to partner with us, but didn't know if that was an option, just because of their mission. I'm not
If
suggesting.
they did, I'm sure they upsize their tanks because of just capacity, but up here on Kimball, they have a refueling station, and then over off the Zamal at Station 5-8, they have refueling there too.
So just a thought, if
Yeah.
things aren't as robust as we
know.
want them to be financially, maybe
Yeah.
there's options.
In the past, we've gone and talked to them about it, past public works superintendents have, and they were reluctant to want to do that.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you. Councilmember Runder.
And a couple of things. Thanks, Jeff.
Yeah,
The tank you took out in 98, what was it made out of?
steel.
And this new tank, what's capacity?
So it's an overall 3,500 gallon tank, with a divider wall in it, so we'd have 2,000 gallons of unleaded and 1,500 of diesel.
How long do you anticipate? Between fillings?
Lifespan,
No,
or
between
just-
fillings.
you know, it's tough to tell. When I was trying to pull data, just how much fuel we're burning through right now, it looked like about once a month, we would probably have to refuel.
Is the R99 just as efficient as regular diesel?
More efficient,
More
more
efficient.
costly, yeah, and it's more stable, so the regular petroleum diesel, you know, will grow fungus or whatever in it over time. The R99 doesn't do that.
And then the actual cost that would be split over a couple different
Yeah.
departments or counted,
Yeah, I think it's a 5-way split,
Yeah.
5-way split.
yeah.
So that makes it easier, each department to swallow.
Yeah.
I'm in favor of this. I'd like to see it this week.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember Henderson?
Thanks. Excellent presentation, Jeff, and I honestly commend you for doing the research on the R99 diesel. Nobody's mentioned it, but if we start using that, which I hope that we do soon, that dovetails really well into our climate action plan of reducing greenhouse gas emissions from city vehicles. Electric would be good, but until we get to that point, this is probably one of the best options that we have. I like it, I think it's great, and I applaud you for looking at this. 'Cause if we can get that from Portland, the price comes down and it's more efficient, it's a better fuel, less greenhouse gas, it seems like a no-brainer to me that we should.
So this information I have on R99, I've already forwarded it to my counterpart over at Pierce County and said, hey, you guys need to start looking at this, because
Yeah.
Pierce County doesn't say they never go around tanks, but they're buying straight petroleum. And then the fire department too. I let them.
Well, you don't have to know how much again, like pays for their gas.
They all-
Where are they filling?
Who's that, Tim Ryan?
Finley.
They have above ground tanks at their facility there at, what is it, off of, good enough, yeah.
That's
It
good.
seems to me that if you could get multiple jurisdictions using R99 in this area, that our price would become even more favorable.
Yeah, they're working really hard to get a facility in Tacoma, where R99 would be able to, and that
Who's
would
making
help
it?
the price quite a bit,
Well, that would get to $7.99, you said $5.25,
yeah,
and as you look at the diesel, what, $5.50 a gallon right now,
yeah,
retail.
yeah. Yeah, it should hopefully someday be cheaper than regular petroleum diesel is if we get a facility here.
So you're there.
Yeah.
And this tank, you would just draw it down, if you went with regular diesel, you got the tank, and then you decided to go with R99, just draw that tank.
You don't even have to, you just start filling with R99 at that point, in time, whatever. is percent, fuel, yeah.
That's amazing.
It's really good.
Yeah.
Well, I think we have consensus to bring this back at
Yeah.
the mid-budget, meeting. So yes, thank you guys so much. This is definitely in line with the council's strategic goals and my goal of being a model city that I hope other cities will emulate what Gig Harbor chooses to do in terms of this type of thing. And then, get it down to the cheapest that we can by encouraging others to use it too.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah,
Thank you
Jeff.
both.
Thank
Yeah,
Yeah, Jeff's the one who initiated this. He's like, he came to me with this, that, hey, what do you think about this?
Yeah.
Apply, and then we kept developing it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks,
Thank you. Good job.
We started this process way back in late last year, and we put this on. It's just been evolving and growing.
It's very cool. I appreciate your initiative.
How soon did we get these, if everything goes right?
Probably tomorrow.
Roger.
Amendment, and then first part of the year, if we get something with a contractor on the books, I'm sure it'd be dead or late next 2024 at the earliest.
It's coming. Yeah. Thanks again, Jeff. Appreciate it.
Yeah, I wonder if there wouldn't be some kind of grant available for something like that, some environmental agency or something.
I just thought it makes sense.
Want to do that? Is that okay? Okay, so we will move.
I suggested that we try to get Murphy's Landing up in the agenda since we have people from Murphy's Landing in the room.
Yes.
Although I'm sure you're fascinated by the meeting.
To item 3 then, and we'll move forward to 4. Thanks, Jeff. Thank you, Jeff.
Thank you, Jeff.
Maybe you can take a 3-minute break.
Yeah, let's take a 5-minute break. We'll reconvene at 4:28. Welcome back to the Vancouver City Council study session of Thursday, June 29th, 2023. The time is 4:32 p.m. We have returned from break and we are on our third agenda item, which actually was number 4. We've moved it to, actually it was 3 and it's back to 3. So Murphy's Landing Marina dredging, and this report will be from our Public Works Director, Jeff Lindholm.
Thank you, Mayor. Hopefully you've had a chance to read the memo that was provided for the study session today. I don't want to go into the background. We're all probably very aware of Murphy's Landing Marine and Dredging Project and where we are. What we have is, at this point, staff is looking at 2 different options and want to discuss those 2 options with council. Option 1 is proceed with nationwide permit, which is for upland disposal. That would cost us to complete the nationwide permit an additional $45,000. Right now, we have spent roughly in consultant costs $35,000, I think. So in order to bring us to the finish line through the U.S. Army Corps process and go through consultation, they are requiring environmental documents that we need our consultant parametrics to help us with and go through consultation. That's that $45,000. The other option is option 2, that is to proceed with an individual permit. And that individual permit is intended to be able to provide us, with Murphy's Landing, the ability to dispose of the dredges out in front of Murphy's Landing Marina in water in Comiskey Bay. So that dollar, if we were to not proceed further with the nationwide and rotate and begin with the individual permit process, that's an additional $70,000 above what we've already spent. So those are the 2 options. Murphy's Landing did provide us a request, an email yesterday or the day before, I can't remember how far back it was. Whereby if we were to proceed forward, they are going to consider revising the agreement that was in place in 2021, I think. And whereby the city would pay that $45,000 for completing the nationwide permit directly to Murphy's Landing, and then essentially be done. We would fulfill our obligation in the permitting process and be done with it. So we just, before we wanted to make a recommendation from staff on which option, 1 or 2 we want to proceed with, we want to let you know that that offer was out there. And then we wanted to answer any questions the council might have and move forward with some discussion.
Councilmember Wood?
Yes, you mentioned that, have we already spent the $35,000?
Yes, we had spent the $35,000 budget previously.
All right, have we spent the $45,000?
No, you've not seen, we haven't come to
And we're
council.
not obligated for the $45,000.
We are not, but right now, we're at a crossroads. We have these 2 options in front of us. So based on the outcome of this meeting, without the request from Murphy's Landing, it would be, where do we proceed forward with option 1 or option 2? And then depending on how the outcome of that question is, then who's going to pay for that?
And the $70,000, that's is that a fixed cost? Do we
Well, it's
know?
consultant cost to.
And a permit and consultant and permit, or?
Well, permitting in that you're preparing the environmental documents and making the application. The actual permitting cost, application cost would be a small portion of that. Almost the entirety of that $70,000 would go into consultant costs to prepare the environmental documents necessary to submit and go through consultation.
Okay, and that's a total thing, the
Total
$70,000. Thank you.
Any other question? Councilmember Henderson?
Yeah, so it looks like, we've spent 35,000, but we really don't have anything because we still got more work to do, which would require another 45,000, so that's 80 grand. And if we want to do an individual permit and we had to spend the extra 70, then we put out $105,000. And 70, we don't know clearly whether it's 70, 75, or 80, or 55. Or we pay 45,000 and they get their own permit at their own cost, whatever the disposal rates are, that's up to them.
Well, that was what was proposed, so.
So. Okay. With no other binding conditions on the city. We were to let them do the permit.
Well, that's where we have to, we may want to take this into
Yeah.
separate discussion, because that's.
Right.
Would you like to do that now? Or do we want to, other? Okay, so if there is other discussion by council, we would need to go into executive session. So I would need someone to ask to go into executive.
I move we go into executive session.
Okay, so we will now go into executive session for 10 minutes to discuss potential litigation per RCW 42.30.110.1I. Action will not be taken following the executive session. Okay, so we are going to go into council chambers.
And City Attorney Kenny, I just sent a link for that separate executive session with me.
So we will, yeah. And leave this, and I will let see. Welcome back to the Gig Harbor City Council study session of Thursday, June 29, 2023. The time is 4:49 p.m. We have returned from executive session. And I believe that Councilor Rook has a motion or a direction.
Yes, I do have a direction. Council has reached a consent that we will place on the consent agenda. We have a consensus placed on the consent agenda at the next council meeting to go into an agreement with Murphy's Landing for the dredging of Murphy's Landing. You know, we expect to see it on the consent agenda July 10th.
Yes, we will place that item on the consent agenda July 10th.
Yes.
Okay, thank you, council. And are there any other questions for Director Leno? Okay. All right, thank you so much for that. And we will move on to our fourth discussion item. Keeping in mind, it's 10 to 5. We have 2 items left. We can go a little over. Are there meetings in here afterwards? I don't think so, but we'll try to go as quickly as we can. So the next item is the commercial fishing. Thank you, Marcos. Commercial.
Thank you very much.
Yes. Commercial fishing report, and this report is also from our public works director.
Thank you, Mayor. Don't know how fast I go through this. There's a lot here on these 3 separate but related items. Surrounding the commercial fishing home port. But hopefully you did see in the memo, it was associated with this item that staff would like to talk about 3 separate topics. These include the proposed donation form related to from the commercial fishing club in support of the construction of the home port floats, the future mortgage agreements that will be necessary for anyone who wants to moor their vessel at the home port, and then a proposed contract amendment and what that might be about with a consultant for possible additional mitigation associated with the home port project. So I'm going to follow those 3 in order. I think that's how they're presented also in your memo. So I'm going to, and then I want to be able to present each one individually, and then maybe we can have some discussion on each one individually before we move on to the next.
I'm really concerned about time.
Okay, yeah, so
I think this is going to take a while. I think a lot of us have a lot of questions.
Okay.
So we can go until 5:30, correct?
are you able to go until 5:30?
Well, can I suggest something? So we are not ready to go out to bid for this project. We still
Yes.
have quite a bit of discussion with consultant. Maybe if I can just. Well, it might not make sense if I just talk about a consultant. Maybe I can just give you an update on the mitigation, where we are with that. And because we were considering coming to council at the July 10th meeting with a consultant services contract amendment. So maybe I'll just get your sense of that. And we can bring this back to, maybe the July 13th agenda, study session agenda, it's not full. I know that the July 20th special study session is gonna take up the entire time on utility rate studies, so I don't want to suggest putting this
Right.
item there.
Hence, we need more meetings.
I know there has been a lot of questions for staff, and so do you all want to start talking about it today, or would you like to have a consolidated meeting with this to have an hour and a half to talk about it?
What's best for you? Want to talk about the mitigation contract? Is that something if you got guidance today to start moving ahead with it?
Yes,
All right.
yes, and because there's multiple steps in the. What we're asking for was just step one. Of multiple steps.
And that topic may be less
It's,
full of questions than the other.
correct, it's just a,
I suggest we start with that one. We can get that out of the way. If we got time, we'll wait another one.
Councilmember Brooke?
No, that's fine.
Okay, so just a reminder, if you could raise your hand and wait for me to call on you, then that will save time as well. Okay, thank you.
so, so I'm going to just actually ignore what I started with. And I'm just going to jump down to, the last item in the memo and the contract amendment for additional mitigation and discuss that. The Army Corps of Engineers, appears to be requiring project mitigation that was proposed by the Washington State Department of Fish and Wildlife. This is new to us. We have never worked with the Army Corps that says our mitigation isn't gonna be what we've been discussing, which use Army Corps either has their own mitigation, they talk national fisheries. Instead, they were saying, we're intrigued by what DFW is saying. We don't want to just let DFW do their own, we'll do our own, we want to incorporate DFW's say into our that's new to us. And so what DFW has been saying to us is, well, we've been talking about mitigation for this overwater structure that would be beach nourishment. We don't have a whole lot, well, and addition to removal of jerkage here. That's about all we have to remove from overwater structures and then beach nourishment. DFW said, City of Gig Harbor, we know that you also have stormwater outfalls that enter Gig Harbor that are causing significant erosion and degradation of the shoreline. And we said, yes, we're not required to do that, but we have money actually in our stormwater budget to start to chip away at improving those stormwater outfalls to improve the health of the beach. And so DFW had said, we want you to look at that as possible mitigation. Having a conversation with DFW about mitigation is a lot easier, different, I'll say different, necessarily a lot different, typically easier, than having a conversation with federal agencies about mitigation. And so we thought, okay, that's fine, DFW, HPA, we will easily go down that path. When we come into consultation with this, now that Army Corps says they want to include what DFW is also looking at, then we need to stop everything, we never considered this. And we need to do design work at a minimal level before we even present this to U.S. Army Corps National Marine Fisheries, because we need to know what the scope of that will be and get it far enough along 30%, 50% design level effort before we can submit it for consultation. So where we are at this point is we still don't know what our mitigation is going to be for the project. We have a hunch of what it will be. It will likely be removal of Jerkovich Pier, some limited beach nourishment, and at least one stormwater outfall rehabilitation to reconstruct, to reestablish the beach and the shoreline below at stormwater outfall. In order for us to get there, that last item was never scoped with our consultant. The consultant is saying, okay, we need to get into consultation. We've expended the funds already. We thought we'd have a permit from Army Corps in, I think it was March or April. We're not there yet. We've expended the funds that were already set aside in the contract to get that permit. So we're looking for, if the council is willing to have staff come back with a consultant amendment to continue through the Army Corps process to be able to get the project permitted and do initial level design work on the stormwater outfall rehabilitation at one location. That the cost for that is combined $10,000, and then what's the same page? $10,020, so we were looking at probably a consultant service contract amendment of just under $30,000 to continue with permitting and consultation and to come back and do preliminary design of the stormwater outfall.
Miss Ever, the thrifty person here. So we already have a consultant that's done part of the mitigation work. And they've been paid for that part of the mitigation work, okay. And now we're looking at spending another 30,000 to work on the outfall, is that what I'm hearing?
And when about just under 20,000 or so to work on the outfall and about $10,000, maybe a little less, to continue with consultation that is lagging with the Army Corps, just to get the whole project through the permitting process.
Okay, can we do that in-house or do we, okay, that.
We don't,
takes care for me.
there is a significant amount of marine biologist staff time that we don't have.
All right, thank you. I support that, by the way.
Councilmember Henderson.
So, assuming that we go ahead with this, we're gonna get into that same situation we did with the pier last year, or the year before, where we didn't know whether DFW would say, okay, that's enough mitigation, or are we gonna be in this?
No, because the two projects are locked together.
Okay,
It is literally gonna be quid pro quo.
okay, so,
It's gonna be directly tied to it.
okay, so once we get that, we'll know what we have to do, it's just getting there with it.
Yeah.
Well, we're not sure, they're gonna say it's all right, all right.
Once we have a permit issued, it will outline in bulleted items or listed items.
Okay.
What we'll do and what we can do
All right,
in exchange for that.
okay.
And we'll find out if we can do, if one outfall is enough, or if we actually do multiple outfalls.
We're assuming at the beginning that we're gonna do one outfall. We will let them tell us that that's not.
Were those outfalls, oh, sorry. Go ahead. Were those outfalls planned? I mean, is this in the long-term plan to improve it anyway? So
It is, and it's in the stormwater budget.
that's what I thought, so.
Yeah, if you look at the
we'll just see.
stormwater capital budget, it's.
Okay.
It's gonna improve conditions for fish and
Yeah.
all the critters, so it's a net benefit to the.
And it was already, so perfect.
And then side note, it's not looking to necessarily the construction of the outfall remediation isn't necessarily coming out of our funds. It's going to, do two things at once. We're gonna get mitigation for a project and we're gonna do what we needed to do with stormwater.
Yeah, yeah.
And
No,
some
I think that's
stormwater
really-
stuff.
Yeah, stormwater stuff.
Yeah, yeah.
So there's no general fund impact.
Stormwater might not fund the initial phase of permitting, but construction for sure.
Terrific.
Councilmember Brooke.
I think you answered most of everyone's questions. I suggest we move forward with it.
I will work with Stephanie on this and we'll get a consultant's contract and then move forward. For hopefully July 10th.
Great.
So I will postpone the other two larger topics with commercial fishing home port and then just go ahead and jump into the next item.
Sure, yep, that sounds great.
Okay. Wasn't preparing myself to do that. That's fine. Good job. So the next topic is street capital funding options. Hopefully you had a chance to look at the rough table that we provided. It was really rough, but let me bring it up here. There it is. Zoom in and I'll show the screen.
I want to commend somebody for coming up with those ideas of moving those funds around like that. That's excellent.
This here? Yeah.
Absolutely.
That's a consolidated between Stephanie and Aaron, myself.
Good job. I mean, I think it's thinking of a way to get something done and doing it.
Well, and I want to put it, so you read the memo, you saw we had two sets of numbers, existing and proposed. You'll know that none of those existing or proposed funds are general. They are, so we're separate. So we had a lacking in funds due to federal grants and the TID grant that wasn't gonna work out for 38. Then we found the solution without touching general. There's a summary at the bottom that talks about what the net difference was. A lot of acronyms, of course, and I don't know if there's much interest in going through project by project, probably not. But you can see that we are spending more from the TBD we are spending more from TIP and we're spending more from HBC. And the reason we're spending more is because of the lack of the two grants that we anticipated originally through the budget process that we had. So the intent here today was to present it to you. There's no opposition to this. This is how we'll proceed forward in the short term. And then we get to the annual budget and then wrap this up and then have that be a part of the new amended 23-24 budget.
Councilmember Runber?
And so in the buckets of the money you took out to spend on that, those buckets are now eligible for other grants and other sources of revenue, is that true?
So the bucket being
Yeah.
the federal grant?
Yeah, we can't get the federal grant, so we've taken money somewhere else and put it there to take care of the, and spend more. Where we took the money from, those projects may be eligible for some kind of grant, et cetera.
Yes, and that's what we did. We didn't do that with anything related to federal, but that's exactly what we did with the TIV. You'll notice, and let me make sure I see this. So there's two projects that we originally weren't planning on having maybe it was three TIV grant funding for.
38 and,
Urban Drive,
Wagner.
yeah, and Wagner will watch it. Urban Drive, Wagner will watch it, and no, not 38, we couldn't remember. So it was those two, it was Burn Drive and Wagner will watch it. So, yeah, you'll see here added to the bottom of this Burn Drive. Well, we also didn't account the original budget for Puget Sound Energy, giving us over $100,000 to repave one lane of the road that they would otherwise had to pave. And then Burn Drive Apartments, that amount wasn't in the budget originally because they have frontage along there. Either they're gonna come in and do that, or reduce our cost by about $110,000, or they're just we'll get in there and do it. And they're obligated, I think it's per the SEPA. Maybe just a minute, yeah, to actually pay us that money instead of doing the improvements. And then $500,000 additional from the TIV grant application. One thing that TIV has told Aaron and Stephanie is that they really love this project because not only does it fall within all the criteria, but we're ready to put this out to bid. And we might be too fast for them. We might be putting it out to bid before they can even get us a thumbs up on it.
So you're pretty certain on the two TIV grants, because that's $1.5 million that we're kind of depending on. I mean, I know you.
Their representative said that these were great projects to submit for.
Okay.
And we have been very successful with TIV grants.
Okay, if they weren't to come in, let's say, to find a better project, do we have plan B that says, okay, we're gonna throw some other money at it to make up for that $1.5 million?
Yes, we could reallocate transportation benefit district funds, increase that amount, increase PS or HPC.
Okay.
It
sounds like
if it doesn't work, though, we'll need to analyze more and come back. So if we don't receive the TIV grants, we'll need to analyze, and it could be we push projects to the next biennium. It could be that we take funds from somewhere else. We do need to look at the ending fund balances at the TBD, the TIP, and HBZ to ensure that we're not overcommitting ourselves, and just so that you have an accurate picture, if we do amend this, of what those balances will look like when you go to plan for capital projects in 25-26. Because as you'll recall, we planned for a flat general fund in this year, so we're more reliant upon HBZ and TIP than we have been in any other budget previously.
And when this table was originally developed and we were reviewing it internally, we did have Dave Rodenbach verify that as of today's projections, we would be doing fine to follow with the proposed funding and still have any fund balance, sufficient any fund balance left over. Like Katrina said, as we get further along, we get closer to the mid budget, and then Dave will do that again, and we'll make sure we're still good.
If it's got his approval, I'm all, because we know he's a good thinker.
Well, it all depends what you believe is a good balance in those funds, right? So on those funds, there's no requirement for us to have any money in it. So it really is a policy decision on what the council thinks is an appropriate amount to end with going into the next biennium.
That, the discussion that we're having right now is really what my concern was, that we're I don't know if it's robbing one fund to pay another fund, but I wanna make sure that where we end up at the end of this isn't gonna ruin us further down the road for future projects. So I appreciate that you'll come back to us and say, we'd originally projected that this would be the balance left in the HBC. Because we did this, this is now the balance, so that we know how this decision affects that overall fund. And potentially other projects, and not just that fund, but the HBC and the PDQ and the Q, all of the funds.
To be clear, this is our recommendation at this point.
Right.
Without moving the funds too much, we feel comfortable with this. If we don't receive the TIB grants is when we would come back. So we're looking for council concurrence that this would be acceptable, and then we would do this in the mid-biennial budget, but we would plan the projects this way.
Okay.
Councilmember Likens?
Yeah, thank you. Just a quick question. The HVZ, that still has a good 10 years or so, left, because I know it eventually goes away. So,
I wanna say it was for 30 years and it started in 2000.
oh, okay, so it's got, okay, I thought it was 20 years. I just heard about that.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, I'm sure you more.
I think Dave said it was either 10 or 12 years left, the last time we talked,
Okay,
for the 2 million.
okay, yeah, yeah.
And as you noted, we're the only city with HPD funds, so the other cities,
In the state.
when you see, in the state, they're like, spend your money. Cause we want you to be successful so that they want us to be successful, so other cities with hospitals do this.
Councilmember Bernard?
Yeah. The separate funds, does the city have a policy of what we want that to end up? I mean, is there a number? It's just what we decide. And I guess Dave will have some input in what he thinks is best at that point. Okay.
Councilmember Anderson?
When will we know about the TIB grants?
November, right around, they usually make announcements just before Thanksgiving.
Okay,
So we'll know that before we ask
All right.
for the final budget amendments, we can give you the fund balances.
Councilmember Martin?
Yeah, I think that the fund balance question, right, will tie to what we were speaking about earlier, is getting that tighter projection as far as what we think will impact these and et cetera, and what that whole pot look like that we should reserve, knowing what we have coming down the pathway and stuff. It all ties together, makes sense.
So it seems like there's consensus at council to go forward with this as it is, and then if there needs to be a change.
Yeah.
Okay,
Totally.
right?
Thank you.
You're
That's what we received for now.
All right. Thank you so much, council. If there's nothing else for the good of the order, I entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn. Okay.
Okay, meeting adjourned. Thank you, council.
Okay,